All right, everybody. How you guys doing out there? And we just started a new term, so I'm excited. We're back actually in person classes, which is really awesome. It was a great first week. It was really exciting seeing a lot of faces come back. I was always curious, like, who's going to show back up, or some of the students that were out of town going to come back. And we had a great term so far. Today, I'm just going to pick like some books that are good for fundamental drawing. Many of you are always asking about mannequinizing. How do you study it? How do you do figure invention? How do you study the human figure at home? What books do you use? I'm a book guy because I grew up in that era of books. Many of you are digital and will be picking up and maybe looking at these names that I'm giving you and searching them on Google and finding PDFs or maybe some versions of them that are more in a digital format, which is fine. I like to have a book out in front of me. A lot of times this is my drawing board here, and I'll have my iPad up here and draw from that, or I'll just have books out like this. A book leans really nicely, for example, right up on my drawing board here. I just kind of put it up here, open it up and put it up there on this little thing, and then I can just sit and sketch directly from it. So it doesn't really matter how you do it. Well, since I just grabbed this one, this is, as you can see, it's falling apart because it's gotten a lot of use over the years, but this is How to Draw the Marvel Way, right? And this is one we talk about on our book list, and at some point maybe we'll go through the whole book list and just show examples of all of them, but that's quite a undertaking. So today it's books that helped me learn how to draw the human figure in dynamic ways. Because, I don't see any reason to do clunky, dumpy figures, right? So whether you're doing comics, you're doing storyboarding, you're doing fine art, whatever, it's got to be, I think, not sensational, but, well, sometimes sensationalized figures. So, with How to Draw the Marvel Way, you've got, basically you got Stan Lee and John Buscema, who I've got another Buscema book because I'm a big fan of his. And just the things I notice with things like this is not only the volumetric strength, but how he tweaks in on the knee, squares it off, cuts it in. Frazetta does the same thing. How he does little skinny ankles that makes the calf look bigger, the knee looks tight, the quads look bigger. So the joints are very specifically designed to make the muscles look more heroic. And so when you're doing that, like whether it's a male or female, obviously female is going to be a little different, but these mannequins, like he goes through where it goes from like a really wireframe to more of a cylindrical, kind of bendable wireframe of geometry into ultimately the form, and then the form would then be fleshed out with probably lighting, which this one does not have, for example. But the ability to do that's something that just takes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drawings, copying from good guys, going back in and trying to do it yourself. And when you look at little sketch pages like this that I have, these are some Buscema drawings and some other things. I'm not sure where all of them are from. Some of them I maybe got them off of Instagram from a sculpture, like a 3D sculpture that was awesome that I liked, that they did turnarounds on, and I would just do a sketch from it, but I would stylize. I always put it through my own filter of stylization, which comes from all the things I'm going to be talking about right here. So when I draw, I think about mannequinizing, I think about the abstraction, the Riley method, I think about Byrd Hogarth, I think about Andrew Loomis. These are books that we can go over in another day. I could bring out hundreds of them, but I'll be doing these book reviews more and more often for you guys because I think they're important. So again, pick up How to Draw the Marvel Way. A lot of people think it's like a kid's book, like, oh, that looks like something you would draw in I don't know, elementary school or something. And it's timeless, really. And these guys could draw like $1 million. Some of the best draftsmen I know exist in the movie industry, the comic industry, animation industry, and you don't normally see their work because their work is probably, ownership of those companies, Disney, DreamWorks, all those things. So you don't always get to see them. So some of the books I picked out are just some cool little books for learning. That's a great one. On the heels of that one would be like the Michael Hampton book. And again, I'm giving some good plugs for these guys, but they're awesome. So this one is, again, has mannequinizing in it. It's well done. It's got some really good information. I don't go to Hampton for finishes. None of this is finished stuff. This is all how you think stuff, right? Another book of an ex-student of mine who was with me for 13 years and pretty much trained him from very early on was Ron Lemen. And Lemen did an awesome job in the FX magazine years ago. I think you probably still get this if you look it up, but it was the Anatomy Essentials issue. And I took it and actually cut it up and just wire bound it because there's a lot of really good information in here. And a lot of his information is building off of things that I kind of taught him about the Riley method, things he extrapolated from that himself. It dovetails nicely with Hampton. It's got some of the same information. A lot of us are always borrowing concepts from other guys we know, and then we're tweaking them a little bit, putting our own twist on it. And so the information is not really like copyrighted information. It's simply concept information on how to wedge the body, how the obliques wedge with the epigastrial section of the abdominal, how the pecs work around that, how the rib cage Frenches in. So when I say French, it means how it interacts into elegantly. Okay, so that's another good source right there. You could then go to books like, this is an old one of Scott Campbell's from Danger Girl. And again, this is more, we're going back to 90s, we're going back to 2000s. I mean, some of these are dated now. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's still good information. This information doesn't go away. This is just a smattering of, this has really good mannequinizing. It also has really good expressions. Great little mannequins for attractive female types. You could also jump over to someone like Adam Hughes, which I did not pull his book out, or even Alex Ross. These are great guys to study from that are, they're all stylistically good and dynamic because they're doing, superheroes and stuff. And again, sometimes we like to start from exaggerated form and then back our way into really conservative form. So I like to study from something that's more sensational and then I can dumb it down rather than studying for something dumbed down and then trying to sensationalize it up. Mitch Byrd is an interesting one. A lot of people don't know about. This is Blue Line Pro used to do some of these, and Mitch does a really good job of just structural drawing, getting three-dimensional form, whether it's through tech. So this is like an all-round book, not so much figure. And as women, he does very Rubenesque, I would say, or even more than Rubenesque, but they're really fun. So another stylization you can look at. And again, you want to borrow from all these different stylizations and then mush them together and then put your own spin on it and come up with your own style. But anytime I look at anybody, and a good example of this would be Claire Wendling. Now, Claire's one of my favorites, but when I look at her, I'm basically looking at Jeff Jones. This is Jeff Jones in a more modern, or someone that took it and ran with it. But if you look at this, it looks like some of old Jeff Jones' old stuff. Not so much some of the cartoony, her interior stuff, but this kind of stuff. The horses, these guys. I see a ton of Jeff Jones in there. So no problem. I mean, you'll see a ton of Frazetta in me. You'll see a ton of Fred in me. You'll see a ton of Glenn Orbick in me. You'll see my teachers in me. So we're all going to be influenced by these people. We just need to pick good ones. Claire's awesome. I would recommend anything from her. And a lot of times will sketch from her as well. Sometimes I'll get locked onto someone like Claire and I'll say, I'm going to spend 2 or 3 months just drawing everything I can of hers in my sketchbook and just picking up on how she stylizes a pelvic section, how she stylizes arms, how she stylizes her stylization, and then I incorporate it, I get it, I go into quick sketch class and with live models, and some of that starts coming out in my work. And I start to see it kind of blend into the way I already think, but I've already added Frazetta in there, I've added her in there now, then I've got some Buscema in there, and I've got all these people. And sooner or later, you might think that you're just going to get confused and overwhelmed. That's not necessarily the case. What happens is it distills down, and the essentials of whatever you were meant to take out of that particular artist are left over and added to the mix. And ultimately, you have your own, if you do this long enough and consistently enough and intelligently enough, you'll become your own artist. You'll just be influenced by a lot of great people. Neal Adams, another awesome one. I'm using a lot of sketchbooks because this is the inner thinking of somebody. When you get to look at my sketchbooks, you get to see the way I think, the way I problem solve, the way I process information. That's golden. Right? And you don't see that in finishes. You don't see that in a Bugaro finish or a Sargent finish. You don't see what did they do in there, to get there. What would they do on a regular basis? They didn't just start painting like Sargent. You don't just start painting like Bugaro. You have to work your way up, and you have to have sketches, and you have to have all those skill sets that they don't normally show. So the sketchbooks are nice because they do have some really cool just thumbnails of breakdowns of pages and this little picture of Batman punching this guy. I mean, that's really dynamic. And I could take that and try to expand upon it. Like take that and twist the leg a little bit. I don't like that guy's stance so much. Change one of the legs and build off of that configuration as a test to see if I can embellish or I can play around and inject some of Claire in there or some of Frazetta in there or somebody else in there and see if I can make it even better. And that's a great way to start inching your way into creating your own dynamic figure inventions, right? Because there's nothing worse than staring down a blank piece of paper and trying to come up with some cool configuration of two guys grappling or fighting from the right perspective, worm's eye, bird's eye, whatever view you're going to pick, and try to flesh it out. Sometimes it's nice to springboard off of somebody else's idea and then just work your own idea into it. A lot of people think, well, isn't that cheating, Jeff? Well, I suppose, maybe, I don't know. It's really just springboarding, right? And by the time you're done with it, I swear you wouldn't even know where I got the thing from unless I told you. Frazetta sketchbooks, these are recent. These are cool. This is volume 1. Just has tons of some of his life drawings in there. It's got his little doodle sketches in there. It's got all kinds of cool information in there. Like, I love these little pages like this that just show like his first generation of a guy riding a horse, or the death dealer swinging an axe or something. And you can see just really slight. So I can see like how intense are his doodles. Is he using pencil? Is he using broadside? Is he using some kind of micron pencil? I can usually tell just by looking at his, but see these working drawings, like that's just gorgeous. I mean, that to me, I like, just fantastic. But that's like him probably sitting down and just spitballing, right? I got to come up with this cool idea. Maybe he had a cover in mind, or they said, hey, we want a girl with 2 cats. Maybe that's the best they're going to give you. And then you got to come up with something really. Is it a saber-toothed tiger? Is it some other kind of hybrid cat? What is it? And this is just, spectacular for me to see how he thinks and to get how much does he lose? Where does he look at his lost edges? It's ridiculous. It's awesome. And then you get to see, how that iteration went into the finish. I just think these are fantastic, these kind of books. So I collect all these kind of books because, again, you could find maybe some of this imagery online in different Google page or Pinterest or whatever, but it's a pain in the ass to go through and try to find every one of them. And I just like it's all right here. I can just, 2 seconds, click it up, draw from it, next page, put it up, draw from it. So I still love, and I love to hold them. I love the smell of them. I just like books. So you may not have that affinity. That's fine. Do it whatever way you need to. I'm just showing you some of the influences from my library of figure invention, figure drawing, how I study that. So here we've got some drawings we're going to look at here of, I just did over the break, like before I was getting back into class going, I just started thinking, man, I haven't been drawing as much as I should, and I'm getting rusty, right? I'm getting nervous that I'm losing my neural pathways I've created, right? Because as you do these drawings, you're creating rhythmical patterns in the brain and the way it works that can bring back up information and reuse it years down the road. If those neural pathways are allowed to atrophy for too long, just like your muscles or anything, they weaken. And when they weaken, you recall that information as well, and you can't utilize it as well. That's why the old saying in Greek, once you've got it up, keep it up. Easy to maintain, hard to get back. You've heard me say this before. Easy to maintain, a little bit of work, a little bit of sketching, half an hour a day will help you preserve the last 15 years of your work. You stop for a year straight without drawing at all, you're going to lose that 5 of that 15 years probably gone, or difficult to get back. So you work hard to get good, and you need to be vigilant with maintaining it. Okay, and that takes discipline, but it's not that bad. Especially if you just, build it into your repertoire, half an hour a day in the morning, or when you're having coffee in the morning trying to get going, or a half an hour at night when you're winding down after a day of painting, or a day of maybe working some job that's not painting. Hopefully it's something art related, ultimately. But here we got Thor, we've got some other Buscema. Oh yeah, Buscema is I'm a big fan of, and I forgot to show his book. I've got a bunch of them on him, but this is one of the Buscema books here, A Life in Sketches. And it's just full of great pages that you can copy from. Like, that's just such a cool Thor, and just this, I just love his stuff. It's very, very charismatic. It's very well done, good proportioned. Some of his stuff's a little scratchy for my liking, but I might interpret like, some of these are like little like stutters to me visually, and I like to connect them more with the Riley method. So I'll inject the Riley method into Buscema, because Buscema wasn't really a Riley student. So he didn't use the Riley rhythms. We can take the Riley rhythms and inject them into Buscema and make Buscema better than Buscema, right? I mean, it's amazing, right? It's a filter that you can add on to other people's drawings that don't know that filter, and add something to a higher degree of what I think aesthetic sensibility, more nicer looking in layman's terms. So anyway, you've got some other little sketches here. I like to show sketches because you guys like to see drawings. You guys are artists, right? You don't want to just listen to me talk the whole time. So this is kind of a cool, again, stuff that I find on Instagram, stuff that combination of find and invent. And so I'm not claiming these as my own, I totally developed that. But it's me going in the process of working towards being able to do that. Do I do figure invention all day, every day, like some of these guys that do comics? No. If I did, I would be killer at it, as good as any of those guys. But I don't, right? So I use it for different purposes. This is just a little figure invention page I think I might have used or demoed in some class. I can't remember the class, but I was just sitting and making up stuff out of my head. And I'll be doing that in my sketchbooking class that I'm teaching right now in the streaming. This next one I shoot, the last week, week 5, is invention with ballpoint pen. So it's things like this, just sitting and inventing little heads and lips and eyes and testing yourself basically to see how much do you really know of these things. You think you know the eye from a 3/4, but do you really? How do you test yourself? You draw it without any reference. If nothing comes out well, you don't know it. That's just simple, right? So people can think they know something. To me, knowing something means I can draw it more or less out of my head without looking at anything. Then I know it, right? I mean, I really know it. Now, not everybody's going to aspire to that level of retention because you may not be planning on doing some of the things that require that. I think if you can, do it. If you can't, then so there it is, you know. I'm going to do it because I want to be that good. But that's just me, right? So if you're trained from somebody, why not train from somebody that does things like that, right? That's a little invention. And then I've got this little cool Neanderthal here, which I think was quite nice. And I don't know where I started that sketch. I think it was an invention that just started building off itself. Sometimes I'll start with an arm and I'll say, what does that arm look like it's doing? Oh, it looks like it's holding I could make him holding like he's holding like just a club. Okay, well, maybe he's like leaning over. Okay, and then I start to go to the shoulders and I say, okay, there's a head. Okay, let's get the head in there. What kind of head? Well, I want him to have kind of wild hair and a, kind of gnarly looking old Neanderthal guy. And again, so I just start building it and it starts to build, the narrative starts to build off of the pieces. And then you start, that's one way to do it. Another way is to find that wide gesture in the beginning, like you saw with that glimpse from the How to Draw the Marvel Way, where it's just like little pins almost, like a little wireframe. And, you could use the skeletal wireframe that Loomis uses. You could use the one that I taught you in online, which is kind of off of that, right? And then we went into the ovoid mannequin, and then we went into the block form mannequin, ovoid mannequin, Spider-Man mannequin, right? So we've got different iterations of mannequinization, which is built off of solid understanding of the components of the body and how they link together. Brian's excellent at it. So if you ever want to delve into it at our school, Brian Knox, I mean, he's great at it. He teaches it in streaming. He teaches it online in figure drawing fundamentals, quick sketch fundamentals. I mean, really good addition to the online program because I'm good at it, but he's really, really wired for that, right? So again, you see, some other little, this guy, I don't know, fighting a crocodile or something. Again, another invented figure. And again, I'm just sitting on an airplane. I mean, I could watch a really bad movie. I could be annoyed by the people next to me. They're kicking my seat or whatever, the kid that's crying on left ear or whatever. Or I can sit and draw something, right? I got 3 hours to 4 hours to 6 hours of time just to completely immerse myself and get some quality sketching in. And I think it's fantastic use of time, right? You also can have your iPad there, just bring it up, and draw from your, keep files in your iPad of things that you like. I always keep painting ideas, sketchbook ideas, or whatever. And whenever I see something I like, I just save it to that file on my Instagram account. And I go there and I look at my favorites and I say sketchbooking. I bring that up and I see all these ideas that and instead of just looking at Instagram and how they suck the life out of you, might as well do something productive with it. Use it as a file system for idea generation, right? Or something like that. So that's how I like to utilize some of that kind of social media stuff so that because it is a time sucker and it's also, it's just, there's a lot of things about it that aren't that great, but great stuff on there for inspiration if you use it that way. So anyway, I think I'm going to leave it at that with you guys. This is just a little smattering of figure invention / fundamental figure drawing and, how you're going to study it at home. It's through mannequinizing. It's through, sitting down and pulling out your abstraction sheets and taping them up out here, getting out some of these sketchbooks and seeing how you can find those abstraction lines within Neal Adams, within Claire Wendling, within Buscema, and injecting those in there and seeing how to reverse engineer their drawings, utilizing other information that they don't have access to maybe, which again allows you to become a more tenacious draftsman and and ultimately you'll have your own style that everyone's going to want to steal, copy, borrow, whatever. So have fun, enjoy. This is just one of the first book reviews, not even a book review, it's kind of showing you books that I like. I've got thousands of them, as you saw when we went through my studio. So every once in a while, I'll just, pick a bunch of them out that I think is on a theme that is interesting to me at that time, or I think it would be of interest to you guys. And we'll go through it and just talk a little bit about it and its importance in your training regimen. Okay? So keep pushing play, as I always say, and just do your best and have fun. And we'll see you hopefully in a streaming class or on the online program or maybe in person now that we're back. And let's keep our fingers crossed that is I think it is. I think it's in our rearview mirror, more or less. So, but be cautious, be careful, and love you guys. Take care. Cheers, and we'll see you on another Watts Weekly here very soon. Take care.